Good day, everyone. Welcome to an amazing another webinar from the team here at JFrog. Today we'll be talking about uniting AI, ML, and traditional software supply chain. The whole point of this discussion is to talk about the various approaches that we bring to ML development and AI. So to start off, let's do a quick introduction. Guy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, thanks, Bill, and great seeing you, everybody. My name is Guy. I lead the product at the JFrog ML. I've been working in a lot of technology companies, from big ones to startups, and I have the pleasure to say that I've been playing with LLMs way before ChatGPT, starting GPT-3, back before it was really cool. But I like this field, and I've been doing a lot of stuff there, and really excited to share more with you. Bill?
And I'm Bill Manning. I've been with JFrog for just coming on, actually next month, 8 years at the company. Before this, I've had many different versions of my life. I've had 3 acquisitions of companies, taken 2 public. I'm a mentor for startups. I like to cycle. I like adventure, and of course, I like comedy, right? So having a good time. So that's just me in a nutshell. But without further ado, let's just get right into it. So first, just so that you're aware, a lot of the things that we have right now are going to be focused mostly on this discussion. This is not a generalized discussion that we do every month. This is a series that we'll be doing over the next year. So you could actually go online, and we'll send out information, I believe, later on. But back in December, we did a quick introduction to the JFrog ML product. We will be doing that today too. We will be touching on it hopefully towards the end of this to show you how it operates. We won't be doing a huge deep dive into it. If you'd like to see a deep dive into it, we can do that into December. Just go back and take a look. Also too, last month, we did a complete webinar on how the JFrog platform really helps companies with MLOps from front to back, right? Using all the various aspects of our platform, from our Artifactory product to our security product, distribution, Connect for IoT, and now we've actually melded in JFrog ML. So saying that, if there's any sort of things that you might have questions on, please put them in the chat. But at the same time, these other webinars are available, or actually the one for January will be available. So let's talk about the agenda for today's talk. So today we'll be discussing, first of all, a quick overview of MLOps and the JFrog platform. This is essential for understanding our mentality on how we do things as a corporation and work with our customers, to make sure that their MLOps is being handled correctly, utilizing a lot of the things that we've learned over the large span of our company when it comes to DevOps and how it influenced that. We'll also be discussing the machine learning repository. This is the new repository type that we introduced. Before this, we had 34 different repository types. Now we have 35. And we'll go into details on what that means exactly. In addition, we're going to talk about how to utilize it using the FrogML SDK. Now, the thing is with the FrogML SDK, we're going to show some examples. I'm going to be showing a notebook example that would be the same similar thing that you might get from, say, a data scientist doing their job and training and learning and developing a model. We're going to be showing these examples so that you can see. And by the way, these examples probably next week sometime will be publicly available for you to go ahead and utilize and look at and download. We have a repository in our GitHub that is centralized around that. And then lastly, we're going to take that same example and we're going to show you how you can quickly implement it so that your, say your data scientist, data analyst, or anybody working on this can quickly and rapidly utilize our JFrog ML platform and how they can bake that into even their notebooks so that when they are going through and doing training, when they're refining, when they're doing all the things that they need to do, they can quickly and rapidly deploy this into a platform that allows them to perform experiments, allows them to go ahead and do other various aspects of their job in the most easy, succinct manner possible. So let's go take a look. So first of all, let's do a quick understanding of MLOps and DevSecOps, right? Now, JFrog is very heavily ingrained in the DevSecOps world, and now we're actually heavily ingrained in the MLOps world. So when you talk about MLOps, it's really just the practice of taking and simplifying machine learning workflows, organizing them in the same way that you would when you were doing DevSecOps. I mean, giving machine learning its own life cycle and making it as easy as possible to standardize and automating it in a certain way. And it's very similar to the things that you do with DevSecOps, which is development, security, and operations. And when we break this down, we actually have been very, we work with almost 8,000 global corporations with our JFrog platform around these, right? The ideas of development, the planning, the coding, the building, the testing, the security aspects. Just so you're aware, JFrog is a CNA. We actually have a massive research team, and we're applying that research knowledge also to MLOps, going ahead and securing things like Hugging Face models, from public consumption. And the other side of this is operation. How do you do this? So the thing is that in the DevSecOps world, the companies that use our platform have their own infrastructure. They have their own ability to do this. And in our case, when we start talking about MLOps and we talk about the operation side, our JFrog ML platform offers you the ability to deploy into an infrastructure, whether it's CPU or GPU based. As I stated, go back and either watch the January webinar for the big, large breakdown for this. But on the other side of this too, I'll show some of this towards the end of what that means, that once you build, say, a model, upload it into JFrog ML, how you can quickly deploy this into some sort of runtime, which, like I said, could be CPU or GPU based. So when we talk about DevOps and MLOps pipelines, most have the mentality of this, that, on one side of this, you have ML development, feature engineering, experimentation, model building, fine tuning in RAG. On the other side, you have dev and DevOps, right? Idea of developing applications, testing, and CI/CD, and monitoring and alerting, right? And when we look at this, because of the way we've actually built the platform, it's much easier for us to look at it this way: that MLOps and DevOps are now part of the same kind of mentality in that respect. Because let's face it, most applications out there these days, and we always say that every company is a software company, and this is now also translating over to every company is now a machine learning AI company in addition to that. So taking that same level of basically stringent kind of knowledge that we have and applying it to ML really makes us a really unique player in the market. There are tons of tools out there, as people are well aware now, that can be utilized for this, but having some place, a single source, a single location that can grow with your organization as your demands grow is something that we've brought to DevOps, and now we're bringing to MLOps also. And I like to exemplify what that means is that, when I talk to most customers and we discuss this with them, this is kind of the same idea. You have a centralized code repository. You have one aspect where one flow where you're actually, building an application. You're going through and doing it. On the other side of this, you actually have, I realize I have my labels backwards in this case, but on the other side of this, you have the ML portion, which will be powering these applications, right? Suggestion engines, product identification, maybe using some sort of visual element, like a camera, take a picture, identify the pieces in it. But the thing is that most companies now are looking for a way to have a coalescence between their application development and also their DevOps development. And so why would you choose something like JFrog for your MLOps? Stating the obvious here, we talked about our parallelism between DevOps, DevSecOps, and MLOps, that we're very well positioned for this. So the thing is that we currently, when we look and you look at what we do as our core foundation for JFrog, is we manage the software supply chain. We can actually go ahead when the person writes the code, and we manage the third-party transitive dependencies. When they build the application, they can upload it into Artifactory, where you associate the build and the transitive dependencies in such a way that you can go ahead and understand every single component that is utilized during the build process. This translates over to things like software bill of materials, right? We're very precise in that nature. And then the ability also to go ahead and deploy these, whether it's to a customer, whether it's to a web service, whatever your software endpoint is, IoT devices. We actually also give you the ability for this to have that end-to-end life cycle, the accountability from the developer to deployment, code to device, whatever you want to say, and we provide compliance and security behind this. And when we sat down, like I said, and we originally we worked with this company called Quack and as a partner, and then they became an acquisition, became our JFrog ML product. We looked at what we were doing, and we realized also too that developing ML models, like I said, was in that same vein. You have your data scientists defining and organizing and training the data. You have the researchers, and they're going ahead and they're building the models and they're training the algorithm and they're fine tuning, and then you're deploying it for usage, right? You're implementing it, you're monitoring it, you're maintaining the models. It's the same similar aspect that we have here, and this allows us to apply things like compliance and security. Before I continue, Guy, do you have anything you want to add into this, or should I just keep going?
No, I think it's okay. And I think the most important to remind everyone is that one of the things we're seeing in the world is that ML used to be this thing that's addition to product, or that's kind of moving in parallel. And currently, as we see this more prominent, there's no other way but handling it like any other kind of software that you have in your organization, because it's important, it's production, it might bring security issues. And we're trying really to bring these two together. However, keeping the experience unique for both data scientists and developers so that they can work as they want with the best in class security, availability, and so on.
Exactly. And the thing is that, one of the things is that when we also looked at the market, this diagram shows some of the various tools that are out there in the market, right? Whether it's workflow orchestration, where you're pulling your data sources from, things like Snowflake or whatever, the ability for you to do experiment tracking, but there's multitudes of tools out there, and only some tools actually have overlapping capabilities, so you can use it for more than one portion of your ML developments. Whether it's prompt management, vector store, model deployment, model evaluation, whatever it is. There's a multitude of tools out there, and we understand this, right? One of the things that we did at JFrog was when we were building the platform, we understood that every company has its own methodologies that work for them. They use their own set of tools that work for them. And we became the centralized component in those organizations. I always like to say we're a conveyor belt for the SDLC, the software development lifecycle. You have raw materials that come in and a product that comes out on the other side. We move those raw materials. We account for those raw materials. We make sure that when something is built, we understand what was used to build it. We know where it went. We give access controls to that. And when we looked at this, we said, hey, you know what? This is very similar to that approach also. Yes, we have our own JFrog ML tool, which we encourage people to go ahead and look at, and we'll discuss that in further details, or you can look at the December webinar. But the thing is, too, is that we needed to make sure we built the same kind of mentality behind them into our platform itself. Now, I'm not going to dive into every aspect of the platform, but I am going to start off with the centralized component here, which is Artifactory. And the reason why I bring this up is that we are the universal binary repository manager. It's a mouthful to say. It's the cornerstone of our corporation. Over 8,000 global corporations utilize our platform, and Artifactory is the core component there. It's optimized for storage. It's also meant so that if you have locations all around the world, you can actually replicate and share the things that you're using, the stuff that you're building with those teams. It allows you to do cross-cloud, numerous things. There's tons of webinars on this, and I've given tons of webinars on it. But the thing is that I want to centralize on for this is that when it comes to any sort of model management, when you are out there, there are some key factors here. And some of the things are, we can manage, number one, Hugging Face. If you're using Hugging Face to pull in these models, you can actually proxy through Artifactory any of the models that you pull out of Hugging Face. And that means you can store them. What that also means is that we'll talk about in a minute is there's versioning, and I'll discuss that. On top of that, when you produce a model, you're going to store it, put it into some sort of Docker image so you can maybe have it as a service that you want to utilize for your applications. And you might want to deploy that at scale. So you can store the Docker images, whether it's Docker or OCI, in Artifactory also. We have the highest level of security and access controls around that. In addition, you can also store the Helm charts inside of Artifactory. We are also, just JFrog is a member of the Cloud Native Foundation. And when it comes to things like scale, especially around things like Kubernetes, we actually, one of the guys who co-created Helm actually works at JFrog. In addition, You also use things like Conda for, say, environments and all the packages you need. You might use something like, Python for this. Well, we have Conda repositories. We have Python. If your developers are using, something like R, we have CRAN, right? We have over 35 package types that you can utilize for this kind of development. And the thing is that say you are using, say, something like Hugging Face. One of the nice features here is we actually have the ability for you to vet models using our curation product. We've actually gone ahead and we've actually cataloged 1.7 million models inside of Hugging Face. But that also means that you can store them. So you have maybe your gold truth that you build all your models off of after you've gone ahead and fine-tuned the models and tested it, looked at the data, refine it. We solve one of the biggest problems that we hear from the majority of our customers, which is versioning. You can go ahead and version this, so this way you know what you're utilizing for your models. In addition to that, with our security product, we can look for malicious code, we can look for license compliance issues, and other things too. We can dive into that some other time too, but we actually have plenty webinars on this also. But the biggest thing is we also wanted to make sure that not every company uses something like Hugging Face. And they develop their own models and they develop their own things that they use for theirs. So what we've done is we've created a machine learning repository. And when a machine learning repository, it offers the benefits of using Artifactory, right? We have multiple upload and download with performance optimizations. It allows you to be, have private, ACLs. You can support also multi-cloud, multi-location. As part of this, you get to utilize our benefits of our platform. Like I said, not everybody is a Hugging Face user, so this way it allows you to create your own custom models as part of this. Versioning, awesome, right? So this allows you to actually go from beyond this. So this way you know exactly what version of a model that you're utilizing. And usually most of the time things aren't optimized, right? All the standards that we hear from like S3 or we're storing it in a Git, so some sort of Git somewhere or other things is really not optimal. For this kind of development. And we bring optimization utilizing our JFrog Artifactory part of our product. And then lastly, it also will help out with our JFrog ML and things like that. There's tons of metadata. It'll integrate into JFrog ML. There's experiment tracking. There's all the metadata that's associated with this too that can be stored somewhere. And in this case, it's Artifactory. So when we look at the machine learning repository, we have the JFrog, we have the FrogML client, which we're going to go talk about in a minute. But with the machine learning repository, it uses our standard local layout. If you're used to Artifactory or if you've worked with Artifactory, what's nice is that we have a standard layout in which things are organized. And on top of that, one of the things you can also do is customize that layout. So maybe it works for your organization differently. There's tons of documentation on repository layouts. I'm not going to go into too much detail. We have that light client. The FrogML client is just a pip install of FrogML that will allow you to use that. I'm going to show you an example of that in a minute. On top of that, big thing, versioning. Being able to automate and version and store this so it can be replicated and also make it easy for people to pull out of Artifactory if they want to look at your model and utilize that. And once again, you get to leverage a lot of the components that we have inside of JFrog Artifactory, such as promotion, being able to actually move a model from, say, dev to QA to staging and production, different environments that might have different controls, being able to use federation and replication. As I stated before, being able to replicate these into other parts of the world. You might have a development team in the United States, one somewhere in EMEA, and say maybe somewhere in APAC. But this gives you the ability to have that global reach where all those teams can work on the same things together. It's really an amazing experience. And then lastly, being able to go ahead and actually apply access controls to this. Guys, is there anything you'd like to add into this?
Yeah, I think that one extra cool feature that Artifactory gives is the ability to not duplicate files. So what happens many times is that you upload the same files because you're doing an experiment, you're taking stuff from Hugging Face, and Artifactory knows how to check and verify files, which means that you never duplicate things. Especially important with very large models that can come in gigabytes or hundreds of gigabytes, and we know to store them in multiple places, multiple locations, and never duplicate them. So that's very, very useful and saves a lot of money for big companies. And one more thing, I think, is that what we're building is a custom and tailored experience for data scientists and AI engineers to work with all this infrastructure, however, with the same frameworks, tools, and flows that they're used to, so that the experience is kept intact, let's say, but you get all the benefits from all around.
Absolutely. And the checksum-based approach of our stores has been one of the key factors that a lot of corporations like. And this also affects the way things are replicated too, because of the fact that in most cases, when you upload something, say versioning-wise, between versions, most of the time it's a 3 to 5% variant between the previous version, from say 1.1 to 1.2, which means that when you are storing this, we're only storing the variant in the versions because everything is stored as a checksum and then referenced in a file store somewhere. It's very optimal, which also means too, it's very easily searchable through the metadata layer that represents those actually physically stored binaries. Now, one of the things I talked about too is the FrogML SDK. So the FrogML SDK is extremely easy to use. I'm going to do a quick overview of it, and then I'm going to show you an example because I think that's the best way to show this. The best part about this is that if you want to go ahead and take a look at it, all you simply have to do is just type in, JFrog Machine Learning Repository. We actually have the link right here, to the actual FrogML library. As you can see, one of the things that I've shown in here is the fact that we do have a generic way of handling specific frameworks, but we also have other ones that are framework aware. So if you take a look in here, you can see we have Cat Boost and Hugging Face and ONX. You have all the ones here, and here's like the generic Python function. And we actually go ahead and we show you how to utilize it, all the various aspects from the dependencies. And I'm going to go through all this in a few minutes. But then when you get down towards the bottom, this is where you can go in and start seeing the format aware templates. And actually, just so you're aware, for the example I'm going to be showing you, I am going to be doing a standard Cat Boost model. Nothing exciting, very generic, but it shows what it does. So saying that, the FrogML API has the ability for you to upload a model into Artifactory using the log model. If you want to load a model, you can actually use that and pull the model out of Artifactory. And of course, there's the get model info, right? These are all the standard ones you would see. You have the generic type by simply just doing a quick import here. If you want to log the model, there's some key components. And like I said, I'm actually going to go ahead and show you an example of this. So don't worry about this too much. We're going to go through all these various pieces that we have here. On top of that, this is the model that I'm choosing. In this case, I'm going to be doing a Cat Boost. So I'm going to show you my model that I'm going to be utilizing. But there are others. So this gives you the ability to make sure that you can utilize our SDK with what works for you. And if it's not covered, you can use our generic. But it also too, what's great is that you can also, there's also specific packages too, right? So here's the example that I'm going to be showing you today, which is the Cat Boost model, FrogML Cat Boost load model. This just allows you to load the model based on that, right? This is the way to do it. And then of course, you can go ahead and even use the predict function, right, as part of this also. In addition to that, to return any of the metadata. Now, this can be great because when you are doing this, you want to get the information, this will actually return all the information about the artifacts, the code, the versioning, and more. And we'll talk about that because I'll show you what it looks like inside of the Artifactory product. So saying that, let's go ahead and let's just go dive in. While I'm bringing that up, Guy, would you like to say anything else, or should we just continue going here?
No, I think let's show them the example, and then we can discuss this more.
Perfect. All right. So actually, you know what? Before I actually go ahead and I do this, I'm going to go do one thing. So let's do this. Let's actually go back a step. And to start this off the right way, let's go ahead and let's go dive into Artifactory. I'm going to go ahead and log in to my instance. Now, in my instance, in this case, is just a very standard instance here. I'm going to go into my administration functions that I have. I'm going to go look at my repositories, and I'm going to go to local. Now in local, this is where we can actually go ahead and store and upload. So let's go ahead and let's go create a repository, a machine learning repository that I'm going to go utilize for these demonstrations. So I'm going to go to create repository, right? I'm going to go to local. I am going to go ahead and select right here my machine learning repository. And in this case, I'm going to say test webinar, and I'm going to say ML local. Now, there is a naming document that I wrote long ago. Just type in JFrog Artifactory naming conventions. And if you go ahead and do that, you'll be able to see you'll be able to see one of, the way that my naming convention is done, but not important for this webinar. By the way, by default, this will also enable indexing in X-ray, and I will show you what that means. That means that actually, I'll just tell you right now, if you create this repository, you upload a model into it, it will be available for scanning inside of our X-ray product. Of course, there's some advanced features that we have here too. I'm not going to go too heavily into this, such as property sets. There's a lot of information about this online, also like prior resolution, but also the ability for you to go in and replicate between locations, which is here. You can either do a cron-based or event-based. But let's go ahead and let's create this local repo. So now I have a local repository called test webinar ML local. So let's just copy that name here. And what we'll do is I'll go in here and I'm going to go right to these artifacts. I'm going to plug in the fact that this repository is created. And if you look right now, it's empty. So let's go ahead and let's put something in there. So to do that, I'm going to go pretend that I'm a data scientist. So let's go ahead and I'm going to show you my IDE. I'm using VS Code in this case. If you look over to the side, I've got my examples here. You can see it's actually a cat boost model. I can even show you here that I actually have, I'm using Conda. And in this case, I'll be proxying all the Conda components through Artifactory. Once again, we can store all of those Python components. In addition to that, all the Python stuff will be proxied through Artifactory also. But let's just go dive into this right now. Like I said, so right now I'm just using a notebook like any other data scientist could do. It could be a local notebook like Jupyter. It could be, Databricks, SageMaker, whatever tool you're utilizing that has a notebook. It's a very, familiar process as part of this. So first of all, let's go ahead and let's go pull our dependencies. Now in this case, I've actually pre-configured this using my JFrog CLI, actually, that's embedded in here to authenticate. I'm not going to go too far into the authentication, but this one is actually authenticated into Artifactory. You can see there's actually a little JFrog tab right here. Now that I'm authenticated, I've actually gone in, I'm pulling my dependencies in. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and define, some basic, parameters that I have here. In this case, it's nothing exciting. It's just some, I'm going to do an iteration of 50. I've got a learning rate. I'm going to be doing an evaluation matrix of, in this case, a metric of accuracy. And I'm going to go ahead and run that. Now, as I said, this is your standard yield generic cat boost model. Nothing crazy. It's kind of, standard. In this case, I'm actually doing a credit risk model. So I'm going to go ahead and define the model. I actually, in this case, I've included the training data. I'm not using an externalized source. I figured I would do it this way so that when I release this publicly, everybody can go ahead and just pull it and test it themselves. So let's go ahead and let's load the data. Let's see if we got all the data in. Well, here we go. Here's all my refinement. I'm not going to go do a lot of fine tuning in this case. And as a scientist, I'm going to go in. I'm going to go ahead and, I've defined my model. I'm doing my build, as you can see. So I'm actually fitting it right here. I've got my classifier. Now I'm going to go ahead and evaluate my model. I'm going to go ahead and get a score, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say how I want to do, I want to do my hyperparameterization and my predict. Now I'm going to go ahead and see what I'm getting for an accuracy. So I'm getting a 9.16-ish for this, which is very, whatever. I don't care at this point. Just happens to be what it is. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to test my params. And now I want to print out, right? So if you look here, you can see once again, and here's my score, right? So you can see here's my learning rate, my iterations, my the metric I'm using. I'm doing a best model fit, and I'm going to grab the number that I have here, my F1 score, and shove it here. So everything is fine. Now, if I was just a normal doing my day-to-day work, this would be fine, but it's all here. It hasn't moved. So how do I get this into Artifactory? So first of all, you can see here, I'm doing an import of the FrogML SDK, right? So this is what I defined before. All the information is available on our site. You look below, I'm actually going to go ahead and define a couple things. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and give it that repository name that we had. Here it is, the test webinar ML local. As I stated before, I am already authenticated. You can look online to see how you can use, how you can use the various authentication methods as part of this. By the way, you can also do this using our CLI, so you can actually go ahead and utilize that too. I'm just doing it where most people would live. As you can see, I've got the name of the model itself. I can give it a namespace. In this case, it's just my demo namespace, and I can change that to whatever it is. I'm going to go ahead. I can give it a version. Now, the version is up to you, right? You can either automate the version. In this case, I'm doing it manually. Nothing exciting. But one of the cool things too is that I also can log the dependencies. And if you look here, you can see I've got my main, and then I have my conda here, so I know. I can also, one of the things I want to do is, besides that, I mean, the thing is that when we look at this, with the dependencies, it can be conda, it can be poetry, it can be requirements.txt, whatever you have there, it can be pulled in. So this way, you know what was utilized as part of creation of this model. In addition to that, you also can include the code. Now, the code is if, say, somebody wants to pull your model after the fact or when you've published it somewhere. Now, in most cases, you would publish it somewhere and it just sits, right? And they can pull it down and run it themselves. Well, this case, we're actually going to take that information and publish this up into Artifactory with that information. So if you look below, you can actually go ahead. You'll see we have FrogML, cat boost, log model, and then here's the parameters. And now in this case, I did have to designate the model as CB as just to say it's cat boost. It's actually inside the documentation. So let's go ahead and run it. So now I'm going to go ahead, and if you look here, you can see where it's actually uploading the model into Artifactory and letting me know that it has been stored there. And I can actually go ahead if I needed to and say that, it looks like it's been uploaded successfully. And let's go ahead and take a look at the actual what's in Artifactory itself. So let's go ahead and let's take a look. So if I show you here, here's that repository. If I do a refresh, it's going to show me, oh, look, here's the model that I've added. You can see that here's the namespace in which that model is there. And I can go ahead and dive in and show you, here's the cat boost rest, right? So that's the name I gave it. I can give it another name, whatever it is. It's all arbitrary on how you do this. And then I can go ahead and show you, here's the version. That's my 0.1. You can see here who has permissions. This is actually a big thing, right? You can add additional properties if you want to go ahead and tag it and things that you might want to do, or apply a property set. A property set is a series of tags or a series of properties that you might do to every application that is searchable and queryable. And I can go ahead and expand this out. And if you take a look, you can see here's the code. And if I show you the code, you can see where you have a zip. Inside of this zip, you can see where I actually have some basic information about the model. I didn't really upload any of the dependencies as part of this. You can see that there's actually generalized information about it itself. Once again, permissions. Now, I'm actually not scanning it right now, and it might be in the background. It's going to be doing something. One of the other nice things is, too, I can add additional information. We also have the actual concept of evidence, which is great for future proofing. In the future, you might have sign-offs or things like that. But the big thing is that I can expand this out and I can show you, right? Here's my conda file. If I want to take a look at the source to see what was part of it. If I want to look at the model code, I can actually see all the model code information itself. I can also see, here's my conda, right? So you can actually see where I actually have all the information too on my conda YAML that's available. But the big thing is too, is that I can show you that I have the actual CBM right here for this one, the credit risk CBM. And then the biggest thing that I like, and one of my favorite features is that when I look at this, I can go to the model manifest. And in the model manifest, if you take a look, you can actually see some basic, once again, information, including the Python runtime version. So you know immediately what version was used to actually build and test this model. But in addition to that, I can show you that those parameters that I had before, right? Here's my metric, my accuracy. Here's my F1 score. I can see it right here. Iterations, learning rate, right? When it was run, like when I did this. And like one of the things I'll just do is I'll expand this out a little bit more, just so you can see, is the fact that, like, here's the content YAML for the dependencies. It's a model type. Here's the framework type. All this information is readily available to you right here. So non-dependent on what you're doing, this allows you to go ahead and manage this. And the thing is, and this is one of my favorite features behind this, is also too, we're going to be introducing, we had software bill of materials as part of what was going on in our standard Artifactory with Xray. And the thing is that now we've even taken that over where we can actually go ahead, and I can just show you here. If I just type in, I think I have it in here somewhere. Let's see, you can actually see, we're actually going through and looking through like things like Hugging Face and finding out these models are applicable or they're available or not. Do you want to add anything, Guy,
No,
as I could?
that was really great. I just want to, I think, emphasize that you showed how this looks from the Artifactory side, but what we're adding, and it's kind of a sneak peek into maybe Bill's next show in the month, is we're adding a better way to view, manage, and work with these versions in JFrog ML, including the ML bomb. And we see ML bomb, or the machine learning bill of materials, as kind of a way to standardize how models are managed, set, compared. There's a concept of model cards, I think, now in AI, but it's kind of like, how do you take all this information and put it in one standard way? And one more cool thing that we're working on, it's actually, Bill, if you could go back to the notebook that you showed, the code in the log model file.
Sure.
So one cool thing that we're working on, the notebook, the code, the log model code command. And
yeah. Hold on, I'll get there.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry. So we're code and UI always. So we want to add security, exactly. So if you see this log model file, one of the things we're working on with the JFrog security team, and this fits into the whole shift left concept, which means that we put more, I think, security responsibility at the developer's hand. So we're adding an ability to scan these model files before they're uploaded into Artifactory. Now, why would you use that? Remember that every time you upload a weights file, a CBM file, a JSON file, a pickle file, when we're good, honest data scientists, it's fine. But this could be a door for malicious files or for malicious actors uploading bad information and bad data into your repository. So we're going to add a really cool security integration that every time these models are uploaded, they're going to be scanned locally to make sure that we're not uploading any malicious files and nothing is hidden there. Because Hugging Face, for example, is a huge public repository with tons of files, and we're starting to see, similar to other Python and NPMs, malicious repos being uploaded there. So we're kind of blocking them from everywhere, from your organization and from outside. So that's one more cool thing that we're adding.
Absolutely, and it's super exciting, like the way this is all progressing, right? What you guys are seeing here is so much effort and work, but we're just getting started, in my opinion, right? There's tremendous amount of things that we are going to be doing going forward, and and as Guy stated that the thing is that when we look at where we stand right now in terms of this, and that's exactly the next part of this, which is of course JFrog security. Now I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I'm just going to do a quick overview of what they are. So curation acts as a firewall for your organization. It leverages one of our products called Catalog. Catalog is where we've actually gone through and we've cataloged all these various package types, including like 1.7 million Hugging Face models, being able to go in. And if you look at this, you can actually write rules and policies to block any potential threatening or malicious packages, right? We've made it extremely robust in its nature, and it also gives you the ability to write things on license compliance, governance, and the thing called operational risk, which is how old or outdated are the things that you're utilizing. Then we have JFrog X-Ray, which is our standard X-Ray product. It's the base level entry into our security, but it's always scanning. Where other tools are action-based, ours is continuously scanning and evaluating, like I said, based on vulnerability or malicious or nefarious means. On top of that, things, license compliance, and also operational risk. Now, supply chain attacks have been on the rise over the years, so we've introduced advanced security. Advanced security is a way for you to go in and delineate through the actual CVEs and helps actually improve the amount of time that you have when you are looking at some sort of component and being able to go through and see, like, I could go in and look at, say, any of these models that I might have here. Like, here's an example of a Titanic survivor model. And if you look here, you can see that I might have a bunch of vulnerabilities. And if we say view all just quickly, you can see I've got 147 vulnerabilities. But out of that, these are the only ones I need to go ahead and look at, because we can tell you whether or not a CVE is applicable or not applicable. Also, things like secret detection, where you can actually see, are there any secrets that might be exposed? Or application and service level exposures. Like, here's one, here's an insecure, cryptographic algorithm, right? Things like that. And then lastly, we also offer runtime. So if you're using Kubernetes, this gives you the ability to go ahead and monitor your Kubernetes stack. So if you're deploying your models as a Docker image using Helm and, say, Terraform into, say, a Kubernetes environment and utilizing it as a service, we can monitor that and let you know how you can actually go ahead and detect and actually do things around remediation in production level instances. So saying that, you get to leverage all the work we've done around ML detection and malicious packages. You also get to look at all the various aspects. Is it malicious? Is it vulnerable? Is it compliant? Is it maintained? All the questions that most people ask when they're utilizing any software component, and that we've given to our customers across multiple industries, we're now bringing into the same thing for models. And we're also going deep level into these things like Hugging Face and finding the stuff that's hidden inside these at any time. And we're using curation, I like to say it's lefter than left. And we have other tools too. And I'd like to other times to talk about that, like in the IDE when we're looking at it. But this is also ways for you to go ahead and see that. We have distribution, which is part of our platform too, to distribute your models wherever they need to be, customers, runtime, whatever. We have IoT, so we have our Connect platform, which allows you to also utilize this. We see more and more devices using some level of ML, so you can also manage your IoT devices as part of this. But the next thing we're going to do is we're going to dive into the topic at the end of this conversation, which is JFrog ML. Guy, would you like to say anything before I go in and show how we can use it?
So I think one thing to remember is that we're building JFrog ML, we're integrating it into JFrog, so it works seamlessly with all these products, so that when Bill shows you now how to build and deploy models, we want to always think seamlessly how this obviously takes the policies in curation and how it takes security into consideration. So this whole ecosystem works together, and you get everything in one place. So that's how kind of we view it.
Yeah, and as Guy said, right, part of this whole thing is that the JFrog ML platform is a combination of all the things that you want to use in an ML product, for ML ops, right? Everything from the feature store, data ingestion, model monitoring and model serving, Artifactory as your registry, being able to have all the information, all the dependencies there, model scanning. We talked about ML bomb, right? Machine learning bill of materials is super important. SBOM became a thing. ML bomb will become the same thing. What did you use to create your model? Data sets, dependencies, containers, you name it. We have built a trusted ML solution, so that when you look at it from this aspect, it gives you the ability to see where you can utilize our security while creating models and fine tuning, all within the same centralized platform, meaning that you can have a single source of truth that we always say for software. Now you can have a single source of truth for all your ML development. And on top of that, provide your data scientists with a nice, easy way for them to take the work that they've done and then have it so they can automate and publish this into some sort of solution, in this case, JFrog ML. And it gives them the ability to go and do things such as testing and using inference and others. And we're going to show that now. Guy, anything you want to say before I jump in and show people how to use it?
No, let's jump in.
Great. So let's go ahead and let's go look at the same thing we were looking at before, right? So, but this is before when I persisted the model, the raw, the model information, everything into Artifactory. I can include the data if I wanted to. I can include lots of things into what I upload into a model, into Artifactory. But what if I went ahead one step further? So let's go ahead and let's create a structured build below this. So I've already gone through and done all the work that I normally would do. So in this case, you'll actually see the fact that we have one that says import Quack. Now, Quack, like I said, was an acquisition, became JFrog ML, and very soon, this will be actually won't say Quack. I'm going to say FrogML. And I still love saying Quack though. I'm not going to lie. But using this library, this allows us to go in and create a structured model. So first of all, first thing we're going to do here is if you look, you can see where I've got a risk model, and you can see it's a Quack model. So I've gone in, I've defined some basic parameters as part of this. The next thing you can see here is that we actually have a build function. So here's the define for the build. In this case, I'm pulling my data in. I'm doing all the standard cat boost funness that I would do. And then if you look here, these are the things that I want to log as part of this. And at the same time, we also have a little visualization I added here. Here's some schema. Like, I'm not going to dive into these too much. This is all the standard stuff you would do as a developer of ML itself. It's just all sitting right here in one place. And then the other side of it too is that we also have, the predict function right here. If you look here with predict, which is just a way, it's an entry point for inference. And then when you structured it this way, it's super easy, right? We actually have great examples behind it, but let's go ahead and execute it, right? So I'm just going to go click and execute this right here. If I go to the bottom, it should have executed fine. Yep, it took no time at all. Now, the best part about this is now how do I get it from here? And then I'm going to show you what the JFrog ML product looks like. But as a data scientist, I can go in and all I have to do is put Quack. Here's the Quack client. It can also, by the way, you can also do the same thing from the terminal, right? There's actually a terminal command I could just show you quickly. If I brought this up, and if it loads just in a second, it takes a minute sometimes. Oh, there we go. And if I just go ahead and I just do history, grab Quack. And if you look here, you can actually see where if I want to upload a build, it's actually just as simple as I create a project and I just have a build right here. But what if I wanted to make it even easier? Well, that's where I can go ahead here and use this client. I'm going to go ahead and execute the client right there. And now all I need to do is take this model, the risk model I defined, and I'm going to go ahead and publish this. Now, I've already logged in. If you'll notice, there was actually, when I showed the terminal, login command. But if I click on here, it's actually going to go ahead and right here, it's going to go ahead and build the actual model itself. It's actually going to go ahead, now it's going to go ahead and upload this into our JFrog ML product. And as you can see, it's actually gone ahead, and I can go ahead and take a look at this project and see that this build was remotely triggered. So let's go ahead and let's go jump into and take a look and show you what I can show, what we have there. So let's go back to the window. Let's go in here, right? And in this case, share. Sorry, for some reason it was taking a second. Now let's go, if you look here, there's a little thing that says JFrog ML. So let's go ahead and let's go log into the JFrog ML product. So as I'm doing this, you can see the first thing I see is an overview of everything that's going on. I've got a real-time churn model. I've got this. And you look, hey, there's actually a credit risk one. And it lets me know also which ones have been deployed, if they have any automations, any monitoring, any external data sets. Then I can go click into the model. And if I click on credit risk, the ones I'm doing, I don't have any builds available. If you look here, you can actually see that currently right now, that model that I just did is being, there's an instance being provisioned. So it's actually going to go ahead and do that. It'll build a model. So it's actually to go ahead and create a build model function. It's going to turn it into a Docker image itself. It's going to validate the artifacts. It's going to run some tests, and it's going to publish this back into Artifactory and inside of Artifactory. So you have this. So this one's going to take a little while to load. So let's go look at another model in this case, right? So I have another one that I ran here for real-time churn. So first of all, you can see that we have a series of builds, right? And if I go into any of these builds at any time, I can show you, the information on how it was built and deployed. I can also show you, as part of this, I can show you that we're also using our X-ray product for security scanning. So I can actually go here and log in. This will actually take me to the instance that's utilizing this. So I can actually see, oops, wrong person. Let's go and get the right person, which is me. And if you go in here, this will actually bring you, this will bring you right here, where you can actually see all the information about this model itself. You can actually also see, here's the software bill of materials for the actual Docker image in which this churn model is running. You can see the secret detection and also application level, service level exposures I showed you before. Well, let's go back here. You can also see that there's no deployments for this specific build, and I'll show you that in a minute. You can also see if there's any resources that were being utilized when this thing was actually being uploaded in there. And then, of course, the definition. Well, let's go back for 1 second. Because one of the things I wanted to show you is the fact that if I am looking to do this, I can actually show you the builds. And I mentioned before that we have the infrastructure in this case. So you can see that I have one deployed already. But say I want to go ahead and deploy it itself. I can click on deploy. I can choose what I want to do. I want to either do a small instance type, right? So in this case, this might be a CPU based, or I can even do GPU based. I might want to go in and say, yeah, I'm going to use small. I want to replace or do a shadow. I can add variations, and I can do auto scaling or fixed replica. And in this case, you can see that I already have one deployed, and I can go look at the deployment details. This lets me know how it's actually currently being deployed, all the information behind it. Now, say I want to test this, right? So one of the things we've also done is we've added testing models. So I can actually use the REST API here. And inside this, I can go ahead and pick something maybe like, some sort of like maybe how many calls or whatever. Like I say, 1 call, so I could do a test inference. I can go find out what the probability of churn might be. We provide also the Python libraries if you want to do the actual inference testing yourself. Same thing with Java and Go. On top of that, we deploy we have the deployment history to find how it was deployed over time. You can also see all the runtime logs. We provide all the analytics behind this too. So if you needed to go ahead and you want to find out all the data that's part of like a big, almost like a data lake behind it, you can get all the information on how you want to do it. You can build and apply monitors. So you can actually say that you want to do data monitors for things like drift. So you can see like here's the versions and null pointer. You can choose the dimension that you want to use for it, and then connect it to certain other monitoring aspects, like Slack or whatever tools you might need so you can get notifications on this. You can also go back, and I'll just show you. When you look at any of these builds, we actually include information like how long it took to build. You can add in tags. By the way, you can also name the versions so that you can actually have them so they're actually human readable. You can see like the learning rate, the estimators. You can see the parameters and how you're doing things. You can do real time. You can do batch. I'm speeding up a little bit because we're running out of time. But the thing is also too, we also provide you with all the information like average throughput. You can see median responses, throughput over time, error rate, and all this information here. I mean, and you can go back, like in this case, I could go back a month and find out how, over time, was there anything that's changed or how it's changed and get all the information I need right here. And by the way, this all also goes back into Artifactory. So I can also trace all this stuff that I was just showing you back into Artifactory, and it's segmented. So here's that churn model. So I can see here inside of Artifactory, here's all the versions. And inside the versions, you can see once again the code like we were talking about before and the parameters that we've stored. You can see if there's any data sets, and here's the data set that I'm actually utilizing for this churn model. And I can see the information behind this part of this too, including the training data. I can also go in and see the Docker image that's here. And then if I want to use this Docker image, if I just want to pull it and utilize it, it's super easy because it is a Docker image. It means that I can go ahead. Hold on, just waiting for my, let's see here. Oops. Do that. There we go. I can actually pull this information just like I would any other container. right? Just do a Docker pull and the name of the image so I can utilize it. And it has all the data behind it, all the information I need to know everything about what I'm doing here, right? Including the versions and all the components that make it up. And the thing is that what we've done is that with the platform, we've made sure that we've made it all cohesive and nice and easy as possible. I
Just
am putting
one
up the
point.
thank you. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry. Oh,
just
yeah, go
one
ahead.
point. Just one point. Could you go back to the platform? Just a question that was here, and I want to kind of iterate.
Sure.
So currently, what you showed on the JFrog ML, the JFrog ML UI. So what you saw on JFrog, awesome. So this one currently runs on JFrog ML SaaS account. So it's currently run on AWS, GCP, and we're going to be adding Azure towards the end of the year. Now, also, we're going to be deploying a self-hosted version for many of the JFrog customers who are working self-hosted. Most of the large enterprises are working with self-hosted accounts. So currently this is SaaS, but it's going to be also available fully self-hosted, so you can install on your own cloud, manage it your own to support compliance and everything that you need, and you'll get the same functionalities. So this is just repeating a question that was asked. And another question was regarding REST API. So you can use REST API together as well with the Python client, the Java, and the Python SDK that we allow. That's it.
Excellent. Well, I think this wraps up our talk. I hope this has been informative. If you have any questions, please let us know. Reach out to your rep if you're already a customer. If not, please inquire. Thank you, everyone, for their time. I hope that everybody enjoyed this. Yeah, Guy, would you like to add anything else at the end of this?
I just want to prompt everyone, if you have any other questions, feel free. We have a couple of minutes more, so you can add
sure.
this to the chat on the Q&A. And we're really excited to first be joining JFrog and to be part of this whole ecosystem. And second, that we're building a lot of new features that are going to be helping data scientists, I think, simplifying flows, whether it's model building, data, how you manage this whole thing. And make sure you follow our next also episodes. And we're going to be updating through socials, through our docs. And I think as the world of AI progresses rapidly, as we all know, we're going to be catching up, maintaining security, compliance, availability for all our large customers.
Excellent. So does anybody have an additional question they want? If not, like I said, we'll be doing this next month. We will be teasing soon what next month will be, but it is extremely awesome and exciting. I'm actually very much looking forward to it. Yeah, thanks everyone for their time. Really appreciate you guys being here.
And thank you, Bill, for narrating this whole webinar.
Try to squeeze in. So,
Yeah.
Cheers, everyone. Be safe, be wonderful, and be well. I'm not in this.